Hey guys, it's Hannah and this is Bookworms Talk. And today I'm going to talk about Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. I loved this book to pieces. I will start off by saying that she's never disappointed me. She's one of my favorite authors. I've loved Slammed, I've loved Hopeless. Both of those series are fantastic, and this is no exception. But I'm gonna give you a quick little synopsis of what this is about without giving any, major points away past that very, very pivotal moment in the book. So Sydney is our protagonist. She has a great life. She lives with her best friend Tori, and she has a really great boyfriend Hunter. Through a set of circumstances, she meets this guy Ridge, who plays the guitar across from her apartment. And she would kind of go out there every night to do homework just to, hear him play the guitar because she liked doing that. He's having a serious case of writer's block, and through the paper on the notepad communication back and forth, he begs her to write lyrics to his song because he saw her mouthing the words to it, and he gets her to do this. They end up getting to be really great friends, and then some other really crappy stuff happens with Sydney, and I couldn't put it down. And this book is fantastic, and you need to pick it up. I mean, I couldn't get over it. I, one, love the cover. Second thing that I have to talk about that I can't believe I've already waited this long without talking about is the soundtrack slash album slash whatever the correct title for that would be that Griffin Peterson wrote to go along with this. Anyway, it's fantastic. You should go get it on iTunes. It's like, I think $8. Totally worth it. I've known I'm in trouble, and I'm seriously not trying to sound like, oh, you being a hipster here. No, like I actually have known two of the songs for a while, but they're great songs, and I really love I'm in Trouble. And Maybe Someday, yeah, that's a new one, and I really, really love that one. And Hold On to You, It's You. I think It's You and I'm in Trouble and Maybe Someday are my favorites on that. Oh, they're so good. But I am now going to jump into the spoiler section, so if you have not read this book, I would go away now, and when you have read it, come back and watch and discuss down there in the comments with me. So I will see you guys later when you have read it. Bye. So about the 17% mark or so, the first 60 or however-ish pages, we get this bomb dropped that Ridge is deaf. This is not negative. It's just very, I didn't know that. And I had very much the reaction that Sydney had. Oh my god, but the next morning, and she wakes up to Warren eating cereal right in front of her face, and he gives her this huge thing of 20 questions. And then he ended up writing on her forehead. Someone wrote on your forehead. He wrote on her forehead, and I was just like, I automatically like you so much. I really loved the harebrained pranks that they played with each other and on each other. That was just, it was the funniest thing, and it was one of my favorite elements of the book. Yeah, that was better for me than the romance aspect of it. So, when she put the soap in the eggs, oh man. So Sydney was texting back and forth with Ridge, but they were kind of trying to be covert about it and everything. And it's this back and forth, Sydney, text message, Ridge, text message. And then we don't expect this because we're so used to Sydney, Ridge, Sydney, Ridge. We have not been introduced to another player in the text message game here. And then Warren says, what are you and Sydney texting about? And I don't know why I was caught off guard by that, and I thought it was the funniest thing ever because I kind of burst out into laughter in the middle of my political science class. And then Warren is so mad at that though, and he walks away. But he comes back and he said, I walked away for dramatic effect. He says, I wasn't finished eating yet. I kind of really enjoyed how they did not tell Bridget that she wasn't deaf. They just failed to correct her. It was so funny. So there is this one point when Ridge, he was just so spot on about Hunter. And he said, you only miss the idea of him. And oh, it was just this perfect little, it was so spot on. There's really nothing else to say, but it was so spot on. When we first got our really big bout of long lyrics, and I was like, ooh, I was really hoping that we would get full page worth of lyrics, just kind of how we got the poems in Slammed. Ooh, and I really loved how I sounded so creepy just there. I really loved how we got the part when he would feel her sing, not listen to her sing, but feel her sing. It was one of my favorite elements to that, and I think it's very, very key for the story. I think it was a really beautiful element that was brought into it, and just really important for, I don't know, their bonding, I guess. The fangirling part, holy crap, I laughed so hard. When she found out that he was in the band Sounds of Cedar, and she's like, oh my god, did you write the song Something? And he was like, yeah. He's like, why do I feel like you're fangirling right now? She's like, probably because I am. I'm not fangirling, don't flatter yourself. I've witnessed how evil you can be with revenge schemes, and I've been exposed to your severe alcoholism, so I'm not enamored with you as I could be. And then he begins citing her face, and then she actually Googles, she's like, excuse me while I Google how revenge schemes. Funniest lines of the book. Are you ready for it? Are you ready for it? I'm not sure you're ready for it. I'm not sure I'm ready for it. Are you ready for it? Let's go. Oh my dear sweet baby Jesus in a wicker basket. I'm going to use that in everyday life. Darby McDowell, you have inspired me to use that to people at Starbucks, despite the looks that I'm sure I will get like you did. If I haven't mentioned before, I'm kind of a sucker for this. When the title of a book is mentioned in the novel, this was just done in a very seamless way and minus all the Velveeta. There was none of that. So our very first mention of maybe someday. However, now with Maggie in the picture, I realize there will never be a maybe someday between us. And it's just the irony of it all, because she doesn't want to be a Tory and then she doesn't want him to be a hunter. So there are many times where I'm just, this is how my generation thinks. Maybe it's a weird generation, maybe it's just me and I like to think that I'm not alone in my way of thinking that is weird. But this little bit, I swear, just little pieces of my mind and it's creepy. Are you alien? They head down to the lower level to dance, and it's the first time Ridge and I have been alone in the booth. I don't like it. I like it. I don't. I do. Yes. When we get the story of when he was 9, and then he began verbalizing then, and you know, he's 9 and he's learning this thing and he's wanting to communicate, and his parents just didn't want that. They didn't want that reminder that he didn't have the advantage of speaking. And that's another thing that I quickly want to mention. I really love how Colleen had that it wasn't a disadvantage to be deaf, but that it was an advantage to hear. I don't know, it was, I never once in there heard, you know, the disability of like deafness or anything like that. I just heard like this extra advantage to hear. Like, it wasn't down-putting. Anyway, it was just brilliantly, it was just brilliantly done to where I never found like any kind of negative connotation to it. So anyway, back to my point anyway. So we have this story, and then he began like trying to, you know, learn like the signs and the words to like cookie and window, and he was teaching his, you know, younger brother that, and I was like this close to tears that whole story. Man, and when they were writing Maybe Someday, and oh, and he read the lyrics, and she didn't want to write, but he read them and they were so about him, and I just, that song in particular, when they wrote it together, was just this mesh. I listened to that song because it was one of my favorites of the album, because I only let myself listen to like the first half without like wanting to spoil myself to what happened to the rest of the book. So I listened to like the first like 4 songs and that was it. So I listened to that one the most, and I pretty much had that song memorized, and I was thinking, how is that just from his perspective, or how is that just from her perspective? But now I realize, after, you know, reading the scene, it was just this medley of both of theirs, and it was just, I loved seeing it come to life. I loved watching it just be created. When he has her listen to the rough cut of Maybe Someday, and they're just like sitting in her bed, and he feels just jealousy. And I'll read you this little couple sentences. Never in all my life and in all my years of living in a world of silence have I wanted to hear something as much as I want to hear her sing right now. But after they kissed, and then this part particularly, it's from Sydney's perspective. I didn't think it was possible to cram so much regret and sorrow into one expression. Seeing how much he regretted being in that moment with me was one of the biggest blows my heart has ever taken. It hurt worse than what Hunter did to me. And when they decided, they were so mature about this, by the way, too. After that, they decided, well, you know what? We're gonna talk about this. Ridge is like, I'm not leaving Maggie. It's never going to happen. I love her and I'm not going to leave her. And Sydney's, I never expected you to. They're so mature about this. So then they just decided to do this whole thing where they would tell each other flaws. I can't hear my own farts. So
Oh my god, I love him.
So Ridge says, I can't hear my own farts. So sometimes I'll forget that other people can hear them.
Oh my god, if I was deaf, that would be me.
When we get the story of 5-year-old Ridge putting his ear to the floorboards to hear when the music stopped playing at the parties at, you know, his house when he was a kid, so that he could go to his younger brother's room, and the sound of the cedar floorboards, insta-tears. I wanted to hug him. Sydney sometimes lacks this filter between her mind and her fingers. She texts Ridge. I mean, don't get me wrong, It would help if you weren't so attractive, but I'm hoping Brennan looks a lot like you. That way, when you're shacking up with Maggie tomorrow night, I can have drunk wild fun with your little brother. And then instantly she's like, that's not sounding like how I meant that was supposed to be funny. That's not gonna come off as funny. And of course he doesn't think it's funny. It's not funny. And therein lies the problem, Sydney. You should be able to screw however you want, and I shouldn't give a shit. Which, at first we're like, oh, that was not okay to say. But then we're like, oh, that he shouldn't, and then almost like this admission, the problems. And then, oh my god, they're hugging, they kind of made up, but then Warren walks in, and Ridge is unaware that Warren is there, and Warren keeps his back to them, but he says, knowing that only Sydney can hear, I'm only going to say this once, and I need you to listen. He will never leave her, Sydney. And I'm just left with thinking, what is this that everyone's like, he won't leave her, he will always love her forever, and that's it. What is so bad? And I knew it was something that was life-threatening. I didn't think she would go for the cancer route, which she didn't, and I'm grateful for, because I just don't think I could have done that. But I'm about to get into that in like right now. But before I do that, I am going to talk about how much I actually do like Maggie. I feel like a lot of people may not, just because they have big picture goal in mind, and they do like Sydney, and I do like Sydney, do not get me wrong, but I also really like Maggie as a person and as a character, and I don't see her as this roadblock between, Sydney's happiness. I really do like her as a person, and I found it so funny, especially this stupid twin bra situation when they were drunk and trying to, oh my god, that was so funny. And then we get these really couple beautiful, that I'm not going to read to you because this is a long video, I feel it, but these really beautiful couple paragraphs right around the very, very end of chapter 16, if you do want to look, of like compatible souls, and I am all about that. I'm all about soul talk here. It's me in a definition, because that made sense. But then he leaves it with soul talk, beautifulness, yes, okay, you need to move out. And then that's it, right? And then she wakes up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and thinking that this doesn't feel like her own place, and then she finds Maggie on the floor, and she panics, and then there's chaos. Then Maggie is taken to the hospital, and we find out a little bit later that she has CFDR, which is a kind of cystic fibrosis, but it's like stage 2, and it also has to do with diabetes. I am no specialist. What's the word? Specialist? Specialist. Oh my god. We get this really important backstory with Ridge and Warren and Maggie, and it explains a lot, and it does tie a lot of loose ends, and it explains why Ridge has stayed with her. He wanted to be there for her. They have this very important conversation in which Maggie says that being with him is holding her back from experiencing more things in life. She didn't say it in the kind of way that I'm about to explain it, but almost that, she's her own hero, I guess. Warren explains to Sydney, and it's just, it's perfect. It is like the most important thing that needed to be said to her. I don't want you getting it into your head that the love you have for Ridge is enough to hold you over until the day that Maggie dies, because Maggie isn't dying, Sydney. Maggie's living. She'll be around a lot longer than Ridge's heart could ever survive you. Okay, when he verbalized for the first time in how many years? Since he was 9 years old. Ugly crying on my part. I mean, hideous, ugly crying. My neighbors probably heard me and thought I was killing a cat. Oh man, and then when Ridge left his computer, I'm kind of working backwards and forwards here and not in really quite chronological order, but when shit hit the fan, and then Maggie went through his computer and found all their messages through Facebook, and she just read everything, and it's not like she had this really big misunderstanding about them being together in this way, but she understood that, his heart was everything. And it's explained to us that in this year of waiting between when Ridge finally went out with Maggie, that it was all that waiting, it just made their relationship so over-romanticized, and it was almost idealized. And so then after this is about 3 weeks later after him and Maggie were no longer together, he goes to Sydney, and then he leaves with this note, but he leaves the PS, and he says, look, I understand that you've wanted, you need time for your heart to catch up. And he says, just say when. And we went to this little place where Sounds of Cedar, part of the band, I guess, was playing, and so was Ridge. And he was like, some of the songs were written with you and some other songs were written for you, and then the whole thing, and then he was talking, he was practicing with it, and then she did the signing, and then when she practiced signing, I love you, he was just so, blown away by that, but he wanted to, feel her say, I love you, and it was just so sweet, and I loved it. Can I just do this, and you guys understand the words that I'm not forming? You understand what all of, because these aren't words, these are just me, not wording, because not wording is a thing. Can that just be added to the dictionary? I mean, twerking was added, can not wording be added? I really hope that you guys enjoy this, and be sure to check out a couple of my other reviews of Colleen Hoover's books. I will have those links down there in the description, some of my, more recent book talks and everything, and my social medias, as always, listed right here. You can follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, on Goodreads and everything. Anyway, wherever you follow me, you'll know what I'm reading, because I am all up on that social media game. Is that a thing? Is that it? I'm trying to be cool and I failed just now. But I will see you guys later next time on Bookworms Talk. Bye.